What is up, my friends? How are we today? I've got my kombucha and I am ready for the day. Kombucha is so good. And this was on sale, which makes it even better. This is the blood orange, the carrot, and the ginger one. It's yummy. Anyways, welcome back to another video. If you're new, my name is theNatMoran and I live on the road full-time with my dog Pike in my 1995 Casita Deluxe. We are filming this one inside because it is quite windy out there and I don't want any of that wind noise being picked up, so here we are. So in today's video, we're going to break down the different rigs that I've lived in over these last 4 years as a full-time nomad and compare and contrast and talk about which ones I liked, which ones I didn't like, rank them, and then I'm going to share a tidbit on what I would have done differently had I known then what I know now. So without further ado, let's dive right on in, but first, kombucha. So when I started this journey 4 years ago, I had a truck camper and a truck. A truck camper slides into the bed of the truck and is a very compact and pretty easy to maneuver setup.
The truck camper was super easy to drive. It was easy to navigate. I liked how quick it was to set up camp. I really didn't have to do a whole lot, and I could fit it in a normal parking space, and that made getting groceries and running into town a lot easier. Now, some of the not so great things about the truck camper that I had was if I hit any kind of a bump, all of my tie downs would completely disconnect. Now, before anybody tells me I did it wrong, I'm gonna tell you right now, that is not it, so let's keep moving on. It was just a part of the process. I would hit some of these bumps and my whole camper would shake, and that would ultimately lead me to chaos when I got to camp and I opened up the camper and I saw everything everywhere. I remember that first time I had a solar panel that chipped my counter, and it was a train wreck. It was just like, what just happened? So that was definitely not a fun part about having the truck camper, but ultimately that was a driving issue. I could have done a little bit better with my driving, I guess. But another thing that I wasn't particularly fond of is that anytime I needed to leave camp, I had to pack up everything and take everything with me. There was no quick disconnect. There was no quick and easy. It was let's pack up everything and go and hope the campsite is still there when we get back. Now, I'm not the kind of person that likes to leave a rug or a camp chair outside, so I was running the risk a lot, and thankfully I didn't really have an issue with it, but typically I tried to avoid town days except for when I was actually traveling. Now with the 4Runner, it's similar in the fact that I had to take everything with me, and with that, everything I had was in the 4Runner, including 3 dogs and I. Thankfully, at the time, I had a rooftop tent and a platform with a pull-out kitchen system that helped with storage, but for the most part, we were hanging out either up in the tent or down in the platform. When there was any kind of weather, we were getting wet in the tent because despite it being a really high quality tent, things still get wet and there's condensation, and 3 dogs and a human breathing and tracking in dirt. It was hard to keep clean. And then with that, I had an awning, but even with an awning and wrapping tarps around it, we still could not escape all of those elements. So one of the downsides to that was that exact thing. But what I loved about the 4Runner was that I could pretty much go anywhere I wanted. I had everything on me at any time, and I had a really simple setup. One time particularly where it came in handy is when my friend Jordan and I were doing Tin Cup, and we ran into some trail issues with her rig, and we ended up having to last minute sleep at the trailhead, and I had everything I needed for us to just be comfortable that night. And thankfully, that is a good thing with having friends who overland and have overlanding rigs, is that we can pretty much set up camp anywhere our vehicles are.
All right, so before we left Jordan's house, I made pasta salad and we forgot forks.
Or spoons, forks.
We're terrible overlanders, dude.
So that was definitely a plus. Now with the A-frame style camper, I really loved all of the natural light. It had tons of windows and it was just really roomy, especially coming from a 4Runner. And I don't know, I just really loved the layout of the A-frame camper. However, those same windows were also a challenge because of that bubble window over the bed. And if you have been with me this time, you know that bubble windows have a very very rotten place in my heart right now. I still have some hard feelings about bubble windows. I resealed that window so many times, and no matter what I did, I still had a leaky window. And every time it rained, it soaked my mattress. I had mattress covers. It was awful. So I definitely did not appreciate that with the A-frame style camper. As I shared earlier, this camper actually ended up getting totaled by weather.
So my hope is that the winds won't be strong enough to rip that off, but it's just a little piece of metal. So I kind of want to go get inside the 4Runner. My roof disconnected.
A wind gust came through and ripped the roof apart off of its hinges, and all of the walls collapsed, and it was just a complete train wreck. They totaled it right then and there, and I was out of a home. And I think that that design flaw is definitely a negative when I look at all of these different rigs. Now, I have since learned that there are wind protection kits that you can get for these types of campers, but still a bad design in my book. So if you like the A-frame style campers, more power to you. I used the insurance payout plus some money on the savings side to purchase this Casita that we are sitting in today. And this Casita has a lot of good things going for it. First of all, it has solid walls, so I don't have to worry about roofs ripping off in the wind. And it's also very weather tight, so I also haven't had too many issues with water, but I have had an issue with condensation. And there's one spot by the door that had a little bit of a leaky issue, but I resealed the camper and I haven't had any issues in the rain since, so hopefully I've solved that issue. The biggest downside to this Casita is its ground clearance. There is absolutely no ground clearance, and having an off-road vehicle as a tow vehicle, it definitely is a little bit difficult to go to some of those more remote places. But the beauty of this setup is that I can detach and still go explore with the 4Runner, and that's one thing that I really like about having a pull-behind travel trailer is that flexibility and freedom. And towing also has a fair share of wear and tear on vehicles, so it's definitely something I keep in mind, and I do regular maintenance on the 4Runner to ensure that she is tip-top when we are traveling. Okay, so now let's rank these campers, and I'm pretty sure you can probably rank them with me knowing what you know after what I've shared, but let's get started. So coming in at the bottom is definitely going to be the A-frame style camper. It getting totaled by the wind definitely lost points, so sorry, you come in last. The next is going to be the 4Runner. As much as I loved the freedom and the flexibility of being able to travel everywhere, I was super limited and I was kind of stuck when it was bad weather. So that one's gonna unfortunately have to come in at third. Coming in at first and second was hard for me because I love both the truck camper and the Casita, and it really boils down to personal preference at this point. And if I take away the actual truck camper that I had and just go based on the concept, I think the truck camper would come in at number one. But right now, the truck camper is gonna have to come in as a good running second because it just was way too big for me. But again, if I had a different setup, it probably would have come in first, and I probably would have never sold it because I am a huge truck camper fan. So that means that this Casita comes in at first, and that's probably because that's what I'm living in now and that's what I have, and I've always wanted one of these fiberglass campers. But I definitely have some issues with this camper and its design, and there are things that I have to overcome and work on, but I think that that's gonna be with any RV that you get. It's gonna come with its own set of challenges. So if I could do it all over again, knowing what I know now, what would I do differently? I would definitely get what I wanted from the beginning. At the beginning of this journey, I knew I wanted a truck camper, but I wanted something a little bit more of a lower profile. And I lived in Kentucky at the time, and there just really wasn't a lot of inventory, and I didn't want to travel across the country to go look at a camper that might not be the one and then have wasted all that time and money. So I wish I would have just gotten what I wanted from the beginning. And that would have either been a 4-wheel pop-up camper or an alu cab. I know, a little bit of extreme differences, but I'm a very basic person. I don't need a whole lot of stuff, but I like to have what I need. And I'm very techie when it comes to gear. And I think the alu cab would have just been perfect. But I'm sure I would have had some challenges in those setups as well. But if I could do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I would have either gotten a 4-wheel pop-up camper or an alu cab truck camper.